Medicaid is a program that pays for half of all deliveries, like births, pregnancies in this country. But for Black moms, it pays for 2/3. So now if you're going to cut off healthcare for pregnant moms and postpartum moms, the crisis is getting worse, not better. And the policies coming out of the Trump administration will cause more moms to die.
Welcome to another episode of At Our Table with Jamie Harrison. I'm so glad that today my good friend, Representative Lauren Underwood, is joining me at the table, and she's doing it remotely at her apartment in Washington, D.C.
Thank you for
Hello,
having me.
Congresswoman.
I'm so happy to see you.
It is so great to see you. And I adore you. I think you are an absolute superstar. And I think as we start the conversation today, there are a lot of folks who know you, but there are a lot of folks who don't know you. And I think the best way to start the conversation is for folks to get an understanding of who is Lauren Underwood. How did you get involved in politics? What is your background story? Or as we say in the Marvel universe, what is your origin story? Give us a little bit about who you are, Lauren, and how you became a Congresswoman.
Sure. Well, I'm so delighted to be here with you, Jamie. Thank you for the invitation. I am a nurse. I grew up outside of Chicago in a town called Naperville, and I spent my career helping to connect the American people with high quality, affordable health care. I worked to implement the Affordable Care Act at the federal level, and then joined President Obama's administration, where I worked on public health emergencies and disasters like Ebola and the Flint water crisis. And I stayed in his administration till the last day because I didn't want to help the Trump team take away healthcare coverage. And so I left when Trump came in and moved back home to Illinois. I was working for a Medicaid managed care plan in Chicago and happened to go to a town hall meeting in the spring of 2017 when the Congress was considering many different versions of Obamacare repeal. You may remember that time.
I
And
do.
my congressman stood in front of our community and he said he was only going to support a version of Obamacare repeal that let people with pre-existing conditions keep their health care coverage. So, I'm a nurse. I have a heart condition. I had ACA coverage at the time. Like that kind of promise was really important to me. And I believed him and was so upset when 2 weeks later he broke his word and he voted for the American Health Care Act, which was a version of repeal that did the opposite. It made it so expensive, cost prohibitive for people like me to get affordable healthcare coverage. And I got mad and I was like, you know what? It's on, I'm running. And that's how I got started in all of this. It was just like, he tried to take away my healthcare and I got mad.
Well, and what I hope, Lauren, is that is a sentiment that we will see time and time again as we move into the 2026 election. That folks are just fed up with the overreach. They're fed up with the fact that Republicans are taking them and their families and their communities and their health for granted.
Yep.
All to give power to billionaires who already have too much of it, right? And so I hope we get a lot more people who are like Lauren Underwood and just get pissed off and get mad and decide, you know what, I'm going to do something about it. I'm going to step up and I'm going to run. And your district, the district you ran in, was not a slam dunk district for Democrats,
No.
right? Tell folks a little bit about this district that you ran in, and it's a purple district that you have consistently won in as well.
You're right. So the community, Illinois 14, is the community that I'm honored to represent. It is a suburban and rural community outside of Chicago. It was formerly represented by Denny Hastert, who is the longest serving Republican Speaker of the House. He's the one that resigned and went to jail. So he was our representative in the early 2000s. And then this guy, Randy Holcren, took over. Tea Party Republican came in that Tea Party wave in 2010, and that's who I ran against in 2018. So, little old me, 30 years old, registered nurse, mad about someone trying to take away my healthcare. And I was in this primary. I beat 6 guys, got 57% of the vote, and then beat that 4-term Tea Party Republican congressman by 5 points in November of 2018. And I became the youngest Black woman ever elected. My district was less than 3% Black, y'all. It was a district that Trump had won by 5 points in 2016. And, I just think that we really connected with people about an issue that they cared about, healthcare. It's not too complicated. People
Mm-hmm.
understand just in terms of values, when someone tries to take away their healthcare, when they say, no, you're not deserving, or you should pay more, or I don't care about you, right? That's what these kind of healthcare cuts say. And, regardless of party ID, we saw neighbors across my district stand up and say, no, we want a different path. We want a better way forward. And they voted for me, and I've been able to earn their support every election since.
Well, talking about a hell of an upgrade as it relates to representation, you have just been a tremendous upgrade for those folks in Illinois, but not only just the folks there in your district, all over the country. Because, Lauren, I will say this, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. You are probably one of the most successful legislators in Congress. And you may not have these huge public profiles out there where everybody knows your name, but when it comes down to where the rubber meets the road, you have probably gotten more bills passed than people who've been on Capitol Hill for 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
How are you getting all these? How many bills have you authored that have gotten passed? And then tell us, what is the magic formula? Because you're not only getting them passed when Democrats are in control,
That's right.
you're also getting stuff done when Republicans are in control as well. So what's the magic formula that you have?
Well, there's no magic, Jamie. Okay, first of all, this is hard. It's hard under Democrats. It's hard with Trump in office. It's hard when we're in the majority. It's hard when we're not. But I've had 19 pieces of legislation signed into law. Many more have passed the
19.
House.
And
Yes,
these
sir.
are not post offices, folks. This ain't the
Nothing
post
was a
office.
post office. No, we're not doing these study bills. We're not renaming post offices or federal buildings or anything. No. And so a lot of the bills are related to veterans. In my first 2 terms, I served on the Veterans Affairs Committee, really trying to tackle healthcare issues, suicide, mental health, women's health, to try to serve our veterans and make sure that they're getting the best quality care. I've had success in advancing legislation to make healthcare affordable for Americans who purchase their own coverage. And so you might have seen those commercials that say, visit healthcare.gov. You can get a plan for $10 or less a month. That was my bill. And, quite honestly, I'm willing to work with anybody to advance the health and well-being of the American people. And so that's meant that I've made some unlikely friendships, like Republicans, where we don't really chat. We are not like actually friends, but we can work together on something very specific. We can work together to help veterans. We can work together in cybersecurity. We can work together, on these discrete issues. It's harder now. A lot of my Republican partners have been voted out or decided to retire. That bipartisanship is not as in vogue right now with this MAGA trifecta that they have going. But just recently, like about a month ago, another one of my bills passed the House unanimously. It's called the Baby Changing on Board Act, and it would require all Amtrak trains to have baby changing stations installed on every single train car. And, when we think about mass transit and accessibility and making sure that we have family friendly spaces, this is like so obvious. And yet the
So
Congress
obvious.
needs to pass a law making sure it happens.
And all of those things are so important because I can tell you, we have 2 boys. I remember how hard it was, when you have to rush and, you have a blowout diaper and,
Listen,
and
it
it
gets
needs to be
real
changed.
quick. You don't get a large run up. It's just like, oh God.
Oh, no. So, I mean, all of those things are so meaningful because in the end of the day, this is about making the lives of the American people better. And it can be the smallest thing, but it can be the largest things. And that's what's really important. That's why it's really important to have folks who want to go to Washington, D.C. to actually get things done.
And solve problems.
And solve problems. And to be able to do it regardless if it's a Democrat in the White House or Democrats control the House or Republicans. And you've been able to really do that. And I think what I would love to see is, as we approach 2026, is how do we replicate Lauren Underwood's and bring more Lauren Underwoods to Congress? Because ultimately, that's what the American people want. They want to get
Well,
stuff done.
it's been really interesting. I'm working with the DCCC, which is the arm of the Democratic Party, to, help Dems, House Dems, be back in the majority. And I'm one of their recruitment chairs this
That's
cycle. So I'm
awesome.
working with Jason Crow and Morgan McGarvey. There's three of us. And we're in charge of meeting with candidates and, convincing folks to run. And then when they end up winning their primaries and get added to what we call red to blue, then I'll be with them through election day. And so I've been talking to dozens of candidates across the country. They are fired up. They are ready to get to work and flip these seats. And this is not going to be an election where it's like just New York and California. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, we are recruiting in Kentucky, in Tennessee. We are competing everywhere, making sure that people understand the choice that'll be on their ballots. And I'm excited about, the crop of candidates that have decided to step forward and serve in this moment.
Well, I definitely have a few names for you, and I'll make sure to send them to you of folks that I've
Yes.
met who are throwing their hats in the ring. But one of the things I've been talking my head off on this. I was the ED for the House Democratic Caucus in 2006 when we took back the House and we took back the Senate. And Lauren, in many ways, I see so many similarities to that time period, to 2006, to how 2026 is starting to evolve. I saw in 2006 this huge investment in party infrastructure. That was something that I worked on and that Ken Martin's doing right now at the DNC. We saw a legislative overreach. George Bush at that time tried to privatize Social Security. We have seen Donald Trump really try to decimate Medicaid and Medicare and cut services that so many working families need. And people are not happy about that. And then the last component was we saw a recruitment effort like we have never seen before, where Democrats were running in every district, regardless of how red it was.
Yes.
And as a result, we won seats that people never thought in a million years we would win. And to hear you say that you're really working on that recruitment effort, it just fills my heart, because I believe that 20 years later, Democrats will replicate what they did in 2006 in 2026.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. There's a whole group of people who are just, hardworking, regular Americans who are fed up.
Yeah.
They see what's happening on the news. They saw their representative cast a vote to rip away healthcare from 15 million Americans just to give their billionaire donors a tax cut. And they're like, absolutely not. Like, I think that on some level, the Republicans think that it's too complicated for a regular person to understand.
Mm-hmm.
And so that they're just going to get frustrated and give them the benefit of the doubt or something like that. No, people get it and they don't like it. And so I think that, we definitely can win. It's going to be hard. People are talking about it as if it's a foregone conclusion. We see the Trump people, are obviously nervous and they're trying to do this crazy, I think, illegal mid-cycle gerrymander down in Texas. They're going to try to eliminate the voices of communities of color and pick up 5 seats in Texas. They're so worried about losing the House that they're
They
going to
are.
that kind of a length. And so we just have to remember the power that we have as the American people, the power and the strength of our votes.
Well, Lauren, I'm heartened by, and I was saying this when I was DNC chair. Listen, I fervently believe that political gerrymandering has been the cancer to the body politic. I really do believe that. But at the same time, I have a similar belief in that we can't allow them to gerrymander to hell, and we don't do the same thing. Like we cannot unilaterally disarm. We're just going to do the right thing, and we need fair districts. Yes, we need fair districts, but fair districts in all 50 states, not fair districts just in Democratic states, and then they can gerrymander North Carolina and Texas and some of these other areas. Now, it just does not work that way. Let's get rid of the gerrymandering altogether. And we do it all together. But if you're going to gerrymander, well, guess what? We're going to gerrymander as well. And we see what Donald Trump's talking about right now. And so I'm a bit heartened to see Gavin Newsom saying, well, okay, I'm going to watch what y'all do in Texas, because we got a few more seats here in California, too. Because we know in the end of the day, It's about that representation. It's about having the votes. And if we had the votes, we would have been able to protect the healthcare of millions of Americans. Healthcare and lawmaking is just such a big political topic, from abortion to birth control to trans rights. How does healthcare and legislation go together or not go together? And we often hear that legislators who often don't know the science shouldn't be the decision makers. You know the science, right? You know where we need to go. So give us your perspective as it relates to that.
Well, I can tell you that a lot of my colleagues have no idea how our healthcare system really
Mm,
works. And every day they are being asked to make decisions that could mean the difference between life and death for millions of Americans. And that is a scary, scary proposition. And so, one of the things that I really centered on, particularly when serving on the Veterans Committee, where we were in charge of the VA hospitals, is that I really was not trying to legislate clinical decision making, clinical
mm-hmm.
care. But what we do want to do is make sure that the providers have the full breadth and range of treatments, interventions, opportunities to care for their patients, right? Like, we don't want to be putting up barriers and making things more difficult for that expert provider. I think that what is clear is our system is broken. Our healthcare system is broken. It's too expensive. It's too hard to get the care that we need. We talked earlier in the conversation about rural hospitals, about lack of gynecologic care, obstetric care in many counties. We talked about disparities and how people are dying based on their race or their zip code, why people are dying because they might not speak English. We should not have that level of disparity and difficulty in accessing care. The United States has tremendous resources. And in 2025, we should be able to come together and put our country on a path to universal coverage. That shouldn't be provocative. And we almost got there. Under Biden, we had the lowest uninsured rate in US history, single digits. Single digits. And within the first 6 months, of course, Donald Trump has put us on a path to death and destruction, right? So we know that. But just to say, change is possible. We're celebrating $35 insulin for seniors. It was Republicans that blocked us from having $35
For
insulin for
everybody.
everybody.
For everybody.
Like, like, this shouldn't be partisan.
No, not at
It
all.
really shouldn't be political. I think it should be in the lens of, let's just block and tackle and solve some problems. But here we are.
And the quality of life of all Americans would have been so much better, right?
People say the parties are the same. I can't tell the difference. Like,
yeah,
we want you to live. We want you to be able to afford your health care. We want we are very different.
very.
And we are not trying to give the tax breaks to the billionaires. I can tell you that.
Nope. Well, one of the things I also want to talk, I mean, listen, you're a nurse, and so it makes sense that healthcare is a really important issue for you. But I know you focused a lot on maternal health. Why have you zeroed in on that in particular, and why did you decide to pick that as your focus? And what are the main issues that keep you up at night as it relates to maternal health?
So you're right. I'm a registered nurse and I went to graduate school. I have a master's in public health and a master's in nursing. And I went to Johns Hopkins. I enrolled at 21. And on the first day of my master's program, I met a woman who was brilliant, so nice. Her name was Dr. Shalon Irving. She entered that master's program with 2 doctorates already in sociology and gerontology, but she just wanted to get more skills and more knowledge. And so she and I became good girlfriends, finished our master's program. And in 2017, as I was wrapping up my service in the Obama administration, Shalon was getting ready to give birth to her first child, a beautiful daughter named Soleil. And 2 weeks after Shalon gave birth, she died.
Oh, God.
Related to complications connected to her pregnancy. Shalon was working for the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. And as an officer with United States Commission Corps, she had focused her whole life on ending health disparities and doing it on behalf of the people, the American people. And she died in a way that is far too common. at least in terms of the Black community, right? The United States leads the industrialized world in preventable maternal death. And Black women in particular are 3 to 4 times more likely to die of pregnancy-related complications than our white counterparts. And so I remember attending Shalon's funeral, and it was devastating. And I remember the director of the CDC coming to the funeral and speaking, and she stood up and she was like, "I don't know how this could have happened." And I was just like, "Now, girl, we know exactly how this happens
Mm-hmm.
because it's been happening for generations in the Black community. It's almost like a sorority where we all know someone.
Yep.
If it's not our friend, it's our sister, our coworker, our neighbor. It's someone who goes to our church or our actual sorority sisters because of the D9 and our Greek orgs. It's so common. And so I was making the decision about running and thinking about an opportunity, and then obviously went to that town hall meeting like we discussed. And so I knew that if I were able to be elected, maternal mortality in this crisis was something that I would want to work on in the Congress. And so when I got sworn in, I teamed up with Congresswoman Alma Adams.
Mm-hmm.
She's from North Carolina, and she tells the story of a really challenging pregnancy that her daughter had. And she also was committed to this issue. And so together we formed the Black Maternal Health Caucus, thinking it was just going to be the two of us. And then, Jamie, we were overwhelmed by the interest, not just from members on both sides of the aisle on Capitol Hill, but also from researchers and clinicians, industry folks, companies, Uber, Lyft, Pampers, Huggies, like all these incredible companies around the country that all wanted to join our effort of saving moms' lives. And so we had a summit in the basement of the Capitol. 3 hours we heard testimony from
Wow.
experts around the country. And that expert testimony informed a bill that we introduced with Kamala Harris, then Senator Kamala Harris, in March of 2020 called the Momnibus. And it is the comprehensive solution to addressing every clinical and non-clinical factor leading to preventable maternal death and the disparities we see here in the United States. So we're now up to 14 bills. We're getting ready to reintroduce the Momnibus later this month. And we've had one of our bills signed into law. It was a bill to help veteran moms. And we've made a lot of progress on the rest.
Well, bless you for doing this, Lauren. It really matters. I remember when we were having our second son, and my wife was in labor, and our son had gotten stuck, sort of, I guess, under a pelvic bone or something like that. And I don't know if I've ever been that scared in my life, for both my wife and our second son. And you hear of so many stories. We were blessed to have, good doctors and good healthcare, and they were able to do what was necessary. But you hear so many horror stories from folks, and it doesn't matter if your background. But what we want to make sure that our healthcare system and our laws are there to protect the women and those and the babies. And so thank you so much for really using this as your clarion call in Congress and pushing so hard for
Absolutely.
it.
Well, I'll tell you, this most recent time period, COVID,
Yeah.
has sent maternal death rates skyrocketing. Post Dobbs, we've seen in those states that have enacted a partial or total abortion ban, maternal death rates have skyrocketed. And now to cut Medicaid. Medicaid is a program that pays for half of all deliveries, like births, pregnancies in this country. But for Black moms, it pays for 2/3. So now if you're going to cut off healthcare for pregnant moms and postpartum moms, we're going to see, this will be the third dramatic increase in maternal deaths that we can anticipate in the last 5 years. The crisis is getting worse, not better. And the policies coming out of the Trump administration will cause more moms to die.
Well, and that's the sad part. And it's the thing that really pisses me off, because here in South Carolina, I think it's 14 or 15 states, 14 or 15 counties where there are no OBGYNs. Think about that. A whole county. And there is not one OBGYN. And I think there are about 4 or 5 counties where there's only one. And so, many of these moms rely on Medicaid. It is so key and so important. And if you slash Medicaid, if more of these rural hospitals close, then that means it's going to become even more of an issue for new families moving forward. And how Republicans don't see that and don't see the ramifications and the impact. And it's not just going to be about Democratic counties. It doesn't have any political label on it, right? And so
Nothing.
it's really, really sad. And again, I'm so happy that you and Congresswoman Adams and so many are actually like raising this flag and pushing it every single day in the House of Representatives, because it's so necessary. And I think that goes to who you are, because tell me if I'm wrong with the statistic. Are you the first Black woman elected to Democratic Party leadership in the House since Shirley Chisholm?
That's right. Now, there have been other Black women, great leaders who have served in Democratic leaderships, like Barbara Lee. But then Congresswoman Lee was appointed. And so, winning elections is tough, especially when the electorate are politicians. And so there have been, a lot of great Black women leaders had run, but I'm the first one that has won since the
And
icon.
what role are you playing in the Democratic leadership?
I am a co-chair of our messaging arm. So it's called the Democratic Policy and Communications Committee, and we are trying to help all 215 House Dems speak with one voice. My particular project is helping us be better online, and so that we show up on everybody's feeds and in the places where you are spending time. We're not perfect, but hopefully we're getting better. Hopefully you're seeing us more, and being relatable and in community and connecting with folks on the most important issues that they need to hear about.
So important. And that presence is so critical right now, because you have to go where the people are. And they're
That's
not
right.
getting their news now from just, the networks. Back in the day, there were, three channels: ABC, NBC, and CBS, and you sat there and that's where you got everything. But people were getting their information from a lot of other sources. And so it's really important for us to be where folks are. Yeah, I'm sure as a millennial Black woman in Congress, in leadership, you are probably at the nexus of the tensions that we are now seeing in the Democratic Party about generational presence.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of tensions right now, and we see them play out in the media. But can you just share with our listeners what you believe is happening from your perspective? Do you feel like younger members like yourself are included or listened to, or have opportunities to be elevated? What are your thoughts on the latest right now within the Democratic Party as it relates to this?
Well, the generational change is definitely happening right before our eyes. And it's happening in a way where people are still part of our caucus. And that's what I think is so beautiful, because that's what happens in our communities. We might
Yes.
pass the baton, but we're not turning our backs on our colleagues and our communities, on the work. And so that's what we see happening in the caucus. And so I think that part of the story has not necessarily been told. But yeah, there's a great cohort of dynamic young leaders in the Congress. Another co-chair on the messaging arm is Maxwell Frost. He's in his
Oh,
20s,
Maxwell's awesome.
a
Yeah.
superstar, incredible communicator. I think that there is frustration
Hmm.
where a lot of folks don't feel that Democrats care about them, show up for them, fight for them. And part of it is that they don't hear from us. It's not that the message is wrong. It just might be that they don't ever hear. They don't ever see, they don't ever get that touch. And so I do think that part of the generational change is an approach, and
Hmm.
it is an openness to being willing to show up and try different things. We're not afraid to fail. I was in a meeting with one of my colleagues today, and she was like, yeah, we have to be willing to walk up cringe mountain, where sometimes you're going to do something and it is just awkward and cringe, and it's okay.
It's okay. I mean,
It's okay.
it makes us human, right? And more
Yes.
relatable. And
Yes.
I think that's the big thing is people want to be able to relate to the folks that are
Yes.
representing them. And I can understand the urge for more younger voices and to have them at the table.
Mhm.
And that's so crucial. But at the same time, I think you can't sacrifice the wisdom and experience you get from some of the older leadership as well. And it's about a fine balance. I remember once when I was in Mr. Clyburn's office, I was a young, snotty-nosed staffer, and I was complaining. I was like, I don't know why some of these older folks don't just like step aside and let some of these younger people get in. And he said something to me, and it really made me step back and reflect a little bit. He said, Jamie, let me ask you a question. He said, now, which would you prefer? A young Clarence Thomas or an old Thurgood Marshall? And it was one of those moments in which I was like, okay. And he
Yep.
said, sometimes it's not just about the age, but it's about your values. It's about your
Yes.
perspective. It's about what you
Yes.
will fight for and who you will fight for, right? And so, yes, we need youthful energy and new ideas and creativity. But at the same time, we need to make sure we're still grounded in the wisdom and the experience of understanding what we've done in the past that worked or didn't work, and so that we don't repeat those same type of mistakes in the future. And that's why I'm constantly telling folks, like, let's stop this battle. This that is such a superficial battle, I think, in some ways. And let's really focus on the thing that matters. Are you going to fight for me? Like, are you going to work on my behalf? Are you going to do things to improve my community? And I think if we do that, we'll be in a much better situation as a party. But I so appreciate the leadership that you are bringing and that new energy and perspective. But also, it's not just about you being young. It's about the shit that you're getting done, which
Well, if I can also just say, this might be a very specific conversation
yeah.
to your audience, but, for Black folks,
Mm-hmm.
the Congressional Black Caucus is the largest and the most powerful that we have ever been in our nation's history, with 62 members. And that is important because both the House and the Senate are institutions that function off of seniority.
Yes.
And so not only are we large, but our members have tremendous seniority, which means we have power. And so, the idea that we have a leader, Hakeem Jeffries, in addition to having a future chair, Maxine Waters, Bobby Scott, we have Mr. Clyburn, who's going to be a cardinal once again. You know what I mean? Like, we have people in positions of tremendous power. And so it is not just a matter of let me sub in, somebody from a different generation when we are talking about holding power, creating space, and amplifying voices on behalf of communities who have been long ignored and forgotten in the halls of the Capitol.
Lauren, you are preaching a sermon, because I had to get somebody to pump their brakes a little bit on this, on that, young equals good. Let's eject all of the seniority. Because one of the things that people don't understand, and I think you and I get it, we were both CBCF interns, we understand the caucus, but Black folks didn't always have seniorities. It wasn't until 2006 that, because of the 2006 election, as a result of Democrats taking back majority, it was the first time that we had any African Americans who were chairs of major committees in the House. Before then, the only committees that they were chairs of was like the old Postal Committee, right? But because of 2006, Charlie Rangel became the chair of the House Ways and Means Committee. That was a big damn deal. John Conyers became the chair of Judiciary. Benny Thompson became the chair of Homeland Security. Never before, and that's why this is just recent history. This has only recently happened. 20 years ago, that you got African Americans in those senior leadership positions. And so for some of us, it's like, okay, so now that we are now the chairs, now it's time to get rid of that system and then change something. I mean, that just doesn't sit well. It doesn't sit well with me. But coming from a community that has been traditionally left out and have not had that type of clout and power, and the ability to make a really impactful change for folks in our communities. So I just think we got to look at the whole picture and not just a partial.
Absolutely. And, as we have these debates and discussions, is there a perfect answer?
No.
But we have to remember two things. Number one, you have to win.
Yes.
Have to. We have to be back in the majority. We have to win. Number two, it's what you do when you have the power that makes the difference. And so, again, we can have the debate and discussion of, the list of accomplishments and how impactful were they or weren't they for the Black community. But I will just say that it matters to have 4 senators, 4 Democratic Black senators who are excellent. Excellent. It matters having that representation and leadership. It matters to be able to have a robust caucus where we are serving on every committee.
Yes.
Where we are in every room, part of every decision and conversation, where nothing can happen, at least among Democrats, without the Black Caucus sign off because of our sheer numbers as a proportion of the whole Democratic caucus. Like, that stuff matters.
It matters.
And so, I think a lot of folks aren't fluent in the language of power, but we are going to grow together. And as we get more comfortable having these discussions in our communities, then my hope is that we can have a more ongoing dialogue about what that agenda looks like, how we show impact and how we make a difference, and how we prioritize issues in collaboration and conjunction with communities. You know what I'm saying? So that we don't have this gulf and disconnect where people just think it's age.
Yeah.
Because it's
so much more than that.
It's so much more.
So much more. Well, we've hit a lot of serious, heavy topics, but one of the things I want to know, because I know how hard you work in this job, and I want your constituents to know that not only every cent, every little bit, you put your everything into this job that you do, and the job of representing them. But given all of these roles, member of Congress, you're part of leadership, you're helping recruit folks. What do you do for fun, Lauren? How do you decompress, right? What do you do to just hang out and to escape? Because we all need an escape sometimes. So tell us a little bit about what you do for fun.
My favorite is going to the farm. I am a member, there's something called a CSA, Community Supported Agriculture. My mom and I own a share of a farm in our community. And in the summer through the fall, every Friday, we go to the farm and pick up our vegetables. I love gardening.
Yeah.
I love watching things grow. And it is just restorative. It's my favorite. And it's so relaxing. So if you want to see me in my element, put me in a row of tomatoes and let me cook. You know what I'm saying? I love it. I love it.
So do you like cooking? You grow vegetables and all this. Oh, what's your favorite dish? What's the Lauren Underwood specialty?
I don't really, my lifestyle is not one.
Yeah. Where you have a whole lot of time. Yeah.
That's right. So it's more like, let me cook what I have to feed myself, but I find joy in it. I like chopping. I like just, making a little sauce and seeing where it goes. I like baking. I do have a good mac and cheese.
There we go. Because you're speaking.
I do.
You're speaking right now.
I do. I have skills. I just don't use those skills so much in this current stage of my life because, Jamie, we're out here flipping seeds and representing the people. But I don't want these listeners to be like, oh my God, Lauren Underwood is embarrassing us. No, friends. Come a holiday, I won't embarrass you.
There we go.
Thanksgiving, Christmas, we can do the greens. We can do, fried chicken, whatever. It's fine. It's just not every day. It's not on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of a life right now.
Well, you have the CBC lunch anyway, so you don't have to worry about that on Wednesday.
That's true. That's true. That's true. Jamie, you're telling on us now. Everybody doesn't know about that CBC lunch. Okay, but now that we're talking about it, friends, every week this Black Caucus has a lunch.
And a member is responsible for the lunch, right? Is that still the way it is?
That's right.
Yep.
That's right. And every week it's either like a soul food menu or Caribbean, like an oxtail, rice and peas situation. This is not like sub sandwiches and a box salad.
No.
No.
This is a real lunch.
You're going to have a restorative, soul nourishing meal once a week with the Black Caucus. Yes.
There is nothing like hanging out with the Black Caucus, y'all. I'm just letting you know that. And working for a Black Caucus member, it is, it's a lot of work, but there's a lot of fun with it too. Yes. Who would you say, Lauren, is your best friend in Congress?
My best friend in Congress is probably Lucy McBath.
Oh, I love Lucy.
I do too. She's my classmate. And she grew up in my district.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yep. Her father was like a former president of the Illinois NAACP. And she is just a wonderful leader, but just a kind person through and through. And this is not a workplace where you can trust a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. I think whoever wrote that saying that in Washington, if you want a friend, get a dog, it was a member of Congress, because they know you're right. You can't trust everybody, even though people will smile in your face and do all those other things. The shady stuff that they will drop when you turn around, and even sometimes within your own caucus. So it's not just a Republican Democrat thing. It is a and that's one of the things that's has always been a bit disheartening for me. I mean, particularly, I think the Clyburn world is a unique world in politics because loyalty and friendship are the most highly valuable components of it. If you're a staffer in Clyburn's office, you understand that it's a family and you're in it together. And yeah, there'll be times in which you'll annoy each other or whatever, but in the end of the day, that family sticks together and it's loyal to each other and works on behalf. But you quickly, as you're interacting with other offices, you understand that is not the concept in a lot of other places.
No. A lot of people do not abide by common courtesies. You would be surprised at who doesn't have home training. You would be surprised that they don't understand that how to honor their name, how to honor their family, how to hold their word. And then a lot of people just play in your face, just be straight up disrespectful in your face. Listen, Congress is like middle school.
It is.
In high school, people don't like you usually for a reason. In middle school, they don't like you for no reason. No reason at all. It's just insecurity, jealousy, pettiness, innuendo vibes. Okay? And so in that kind of environment where then people are trying to be famous, there's like legitimate power involved, all the rest, having a real friend, you don't need a lot of them. If you have one, what a gift.
Amen to that.
And she's my good friend.
Well, you picked one of the best, and I'm sure she feels the same way about you because you're just a tremendous force of good, and I've enjoyed getting to know you better over these last few years, and I just love seeing your story develop and your leadership blossom in the caucus. Now, I have a little tongue-in-cheek thing that we do on every episode of this podcast. It's called the Sit Your Ass Down Award. So,
okay.
One of the things my grandfather used to say sometimes at the table, you're speaking out of turn or you need to get yourself grounded again. And he'd be like, boy, you need to sit your ass down. Who right now would you give the Sit Your Ass Down Award to?
Okay. I got 3 names for you.
Oh, you got 3. This is a first. This is a first. Let's get it. Number 1.
Kristi Noem.
Kristi Noem.
Girl, if you cannot affirm the Bill of Rights, you are disqualified from sitting in the cabinet. Sit down. Okay, number 2, Pete Hegseth.
Oh, yes.
Bruh, this is not a video game.
No.
This is not a video game you play at the bar while you're drunk.
Hello.
Bruh. Sit down. Number 3, Pam Bondi. Girl, give it up. They are playing in your face right now over these Epstein files. She thought that she could just fool folks. Like, girl,
they were on her
a real job.
desk. Lauren, she said they are sitting right on my desk. I just need to review it. I wonder, maybe they're in your fireplace now because it sure as hell ain't on your desk.
Sit down, girl. Bye.
Well,
that's my 3.
Well, I love it. It seems like Kristi Noem is a repeat offender. She is really racking up. It's almost like, Grammys. She's racking up these sit your ass down awards. I mean, I think Tim Walz gave her the award too.
Well, here's the problem. She's deploying ICE to terrorize families in our communities. All of our communities. The level of fear that has penetrated neighborhoods. In my district, I'll just talk about my district, where we have people who are palpably scared to do anything, take their kids to school, go to work, go to church. And this is not making our community safer.
No, not at all. Well, Lauren, as we wrap up, I want to also give you an opportunity. Is there something that you're working on now that you would like more people to know about?
What I want people to know is that House Republicans fell in line and voted for a big, ugly bill that is taking away the health care of 15 million Americans. 15 million. In order to pay for a tax cut for billionaires and wealthy corporations. It doesn't have to be like this. We could have a tax bill that puts working families first, that allows for more affordable childcare, that helps people support their kids. We could have a tax bill that says we want to allow the American people to achieve the American dream and own a home. But instead, they have a tax bill that rewards the 0.1% of wealthiest Americans to give them massive tax savings on the backs of working families. And that's wrong. And people are going to die. And I want to make sure that everybody knows about it.
In this environment, given all the things that you've talked about, how do you work with Republicans? Are there any that you can find even that common ground to be able to work with them?
I know exactly who they are. Okay. I know that they have found a way to justify within themselves how they can support the America First MAGA agenda. You know who they are. But I have also found a way to identify one very specific thing. And if we can work on that very specific thing together, I'm good. I'm not confused about what this is. But I know that if I let my ego, if I let judgment stand in the way of collaboration, I will be failing my community. And that my community deserves the very best. The very best. And that requires a spirit of bipartisanship from time to time.
I think it's a word of wisdom from somebody who has become very quickly one of the master legislators in Congress.
Thank you.
Thank you, my friend. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Follow us on Apple Podcasts, Pixel Plus, YouTube, Spotify, or anywhere you find your podcasts. To be the first to know who will be at our table next, be sure to subscribe to our Substack on atourtablepodcast.com. At Our Table with Jamie Harrison is a production of Vision Blue Media. Our founding executive producers are Jason Hayter and Jamie Harrison. Our producers are Kyle Kelly and Emily Harrell. Our content consultants are Ernie Gregg and Clay Middleton. Our digital communications are led by Celie Riccio. Neil Rossini of FWRV LLP provides production legal. Wade Sellers, Kyle Kelly, Jay Matheson, Jeremy Dickerson, and Adrian Williams are our field production team. Alana Davis is our intern. Title sequence by Tom Hunt. Our theme song, Blonde Gone, is written by Dewey and published by Alibi Music Library. Special thanks to Crystal Spain, Jay Parmalee, and the South Carolina Democratic Party. Very special thanks to Congresswoman Lauren Underwood and her team. I'm Jamie Harrison, and I look forward to another conversation at our table.